Hello and welcome to another video, and in this case we're gonna be having a look at Narberal, or more specifically a version of Nabe, and with that I mean the one that comes on the Astral Prey, the limited event. Specifically speaking of Nabe, the Raven Black Phantom of Allure, and her exclusive Arcolite, the Cloud Piercing Shadow Bolt. The reason I didn't use the character model on the intro here is because there is no character model for me to use, so I had to improvise with what I have. Now, as you can see here, I have my Navi at a pretty good level and with a pretty good amount of stars on the character as well as basic attributes. So yeah, on this guide we're going to be taking a look at basically all the parts here on the left. Then I'm gonna go and give you my special recommendations in both the awakening levels for the relics and the relic enhancements, as well as the sub attributes for the relics and the relic set. So yeah, and after that we're gonna be taking a look into the recommended themes and compositions to play with this character or around this character. And once that I have clarified that, we can start. Now, uh, we can see that her basic attributes are pretty very good. So we can go from the worst to the best. And the worst being the magical defense being a B tier, which is pretty average. And B on speed as well. That means, again, average speed, which usually is not bad. But if you're trying to use this character against more recent or meta compositions like Seshi or the Tanxisita, well, this character is going to struggle a lot because S tier characters on speed are the ones that are usually going to counter this one in particular. But then we can see that she has A on physical defense, which is pretty good. That way she's not going to get deleted by something like a Momodorako Kyoto's ultimate. And we see that she has double S on very opposite basic attributes, one on attack and one S on health points or health, however you know it. So with this we can see that this character is pretty good on the stats, only on the stats, and we haven't even taken a look at the skills yet. We see that this character is specialized in buffing herself in armor break and single target attacks from the warrior class, and she has that purple class, which means that she is from one of specific factions that deals more damage to the gold faction characters and receives more from them, but she is not countered by anyone that is from the green, the blue, or the red faction. Now, I'm gonna try to explain you the skills in a very simple way so everyone understands the skills and knows what they do, in case the description of the skill itself is not clear enough. I'm gonna start with the Surging Thunder, the basic attack. As we can see here, it's a single target attack that buff Nabe deals physical damage equal to 70% attack plus 50% of Nabe's physical defense, and before using the skill, that means the basic attack, gains damage boost for 2 rounds, and damage boost is a buff that increases damage dealt by 30%, and it's pretty good just having an extra 30% for the next 2 rounds if you use a basic attack. Just a basic attack with no cooldown at all. Now, we're gonna be having this in mind for the strategies part, so don't forget about this. Now, the Thunder Mark, the passive skill, we can see quite the length on the text, but don't worry, it's more simple than it looks. The first point, it says that at the start of each wave, or when Nabe revives through the passive, she's going to inflict the Thunder Mark on the enemy with the highest attack, and it's removed when Nabe dies. So this is a buff that a debuff that is going to be on the enemies basically all the match. And if the market target dies, the Thunder Mark transfers to the next enemy with the highest attack. Pretty similar to, for example, what the Limited Lupo Regina does with the Blitz stacks. If the people with the Blitz stacks dies, the stacks don't get wasted and immediately transfer to the next enemy. Well, in this case it's the same. If the enemy with the Thunder Mark gets killed by any way or mean, then the next enemy with the highest attack on the team is gonna get the Thunder Mark passive. Now, I'm gonna go to this point because this plays before this one. So here, um, what is the Thunder Mark? Thunder Mark is a debuff that activates something called Thunder Backlash, and that is the damage that deals magical damage equal to 60% of a Nabe attack plus 60% of her physical defense to the target as damage. So it's a total of basically 120% attack between attack and physical defense from Nabe's stats, and the target with the Thunder Mark has a 100% basic chance to be inflicted with ultimate damage down for one round before attacking, and after attacking, they suffer the Thunder Backlash. That means that um, each time the enemy has a turn, the enemy with a Thunder Mark gets a turn, they have a chance of having ultimate damage taken down. That's a debuff that decreases damage by 40%. So you're nerfing the enemy almost to half damage. And outside of that, after they attack, no more if they do a basic attack or an ultimate or a normal skill, they're gonna suffer the Thunder Backlash that deals the damage that I said. Now, the last point and probably the most important point on her passive, at least for the long run. At the end of any unit's round, if Navi is dead, revives Navi and resets her ultimate skill cooldown and grants her an extra turn, as well as resurrects her with 60% of the current health of the Thundermark bearer to Navi. Cap at 240% of Navi physical defense and can only be activated once per battle. This basically is a revive for the character. If she were to be killed, she will revive on the spot, immediately gain an extra turn, and her ultimate will be ready to be used, and she will resurrect with 60% of the health from the enemy that has the Thunder Mark at the moment of her death. And this doesn't mean that she steals the health, she only copies it. So the enemy will still remain at the same health, which is gonna have the health of the enemy. And this can be really good or really bad. If Nabe were to die when, for example, one enemy damage dealer, it could be, for example, a mage, had the Thunder Mark and maybe the mage was half HP, that means Nabe is gonna revive with very low health. But if for some reason the moment that Nabe dies, one enemy tank, for example, had the Thunder Mark and the enemy tank were to have like 80% or 70 or even 90% health, then Nabe will revive with a lot of health and probably get into the max cap of her physical defense. So depending on the situation, your Nabe could revive with a lot of health or with none at all, but she will revive. And the 5-star upgrade is what makes her get her ultimate skill cooldown resetted and the extra turn. So if your Nabe is 4 stars or less, she's not gonna have the extra turn and she's not gonna have her ultimate. She's just gonna revive and she's gonna have to wait until her turn comes in, which means that the enemy could immediately kill her a second time before she even gets a turn. So yeah, it is highly recommended to have Nabe at least at 5 stars. Now, the next part is the Dark Thunder Veil. When you activate this skill, purifies all the debuffs from herself before using the rest of the skill, and then she gains high tier defense boost that is an increment of 40% physical defense, and then she will also gain ultimate damage taken down for 2 rounds. That is a buff that decreases the damage taken by 40%. And after doing that, she will immediately trigger the Thunder Backlash, the damage from the passive Thunder Mark, with 20% damage increase for this instance. That means that this skill is going to activate the passive damage with a little bit more damage than usual. It's going to purify all the debuffs from Nabe, and she will gain 40% more physical defense as well as taking 40% less damage from all the sources. Doesn't matter if it's physical damage, if it's damage over time, magical damage, or even true damage. She's gonna take 40% less. And now, the ultimate skill that is above debuff and single target skill, the Mighty Thunder, or the Mighty Thunder. She deals physical damage equal to 120% of her own attack plus 120% of her physical defense. Not only that, but before using this skill and dealing the damage to the enemy, she will gain debuff immunity for 2 rounds. That means that she cannot be debuffed with anything, like for example damage taken down, or bleed, or shock, or burn, or speed down, or defense down, or anything like that. She is immune to all of that. And after using the skill, she will immediately trigger the Dark Thunderbolt once. That means, the second skill, the one that I just read, that gives her an increase in defense and reduces the damage that she takes, as well as purifies her. And before the initial hit, she has a 100% basic chance to inflict high tier defense down on the enemy for 2 rounds. That is a debuff that decreases the enemy physical defense by 50%. And not only that, with on hit, she's gonna transfer the Thunder Mark to the enemy. So she puts the passive on the enemy that she hits, even if that enemy is not the one with the highest attack at the moment. And not only that, but also permanently increases the Thunder Backlash damage by 50% up to 2 times, max 100%. That means that she's gonna increase the damage of the passive permanently after using the ultimate skill. And then there's another point more. After Nabe uses the Mighty Thunder and before she acts again, the target with the Thunder mark will trigger the Thunder Backlash every time they are hit by a skill, cap it up to 5 triggers. It used to be 8 triggers, but she got nerfed. So what does this mean? Well, this means that after she uses the ultimate on one enemy, that enemy in particular is gonna get the passive activated every time it gets hit by a skill. So normally, if you paid any attention to what I said, with the passive skill, the enemy will only receive damage after attacking, only after they attack, or when Nabe activates the second skill. But after she uses the ultimate, she will immediately use the second skill, so the enemies will take not only this initial damage, but also they will get the passive activated with 20% more damage from the Dark Thunderbolt activation, and then every time that the enemy in particular gets hit by a skill from one ally from Nabe or multiple allies from Nabe, the Thunder Mark and the Thunder Backlash are gonna be activated to a maximum of 5 activations. But that means that before Nabe even gets a second turn, you can activate the passive skill 5 times in a row. If you play, your cards right and hit the enemy 5 times. That means that the enemy will receive 60% of Nabe attack plus 60% of Nabe physical defense as damage, plus another activation of Thunder Backlash with 20% more increased damage, and then that will be 5 times because you can activate it to a maximum of 5 times. That is massive damage to all the enemies. And then you have the possibility of decreasing the enemy physical defense by 50%. That means that the initial hit is gonna be really, really hard on the enemy, and the passive deals magical damage, so the enemy will need hybrid defenses to even withstand the damage of this Nabe. Now, before I go to the next part, well, yeah, then I'm gonna go to accessories, and then we go back to the skills to tell you the specific strategy. Here on the accessories, you can see that tier level 3 gives 20% counter rate, while tier level 6 gains 10% more health, and tier level 9 gives damage boost with an increase of 5%, which is pretty balanced considering this character is a warrior class. So you gain counter rate, so you can attack back after the enemies throw any type of attack to Nabe. Then she gains more health, which is really nice because she has S classification on health points, and you gain damage boost that increases all kinds of damage. That means she increases the magical damage of her passive, as well as the physical damage from her basic attack and the ultimate. So it is really nice. Now, back to the skill tree here. Uh, you might think that the most optimal course of action might be using the ultimate first, so you put the mark on the enemy that you want to kill first, and then you will have the chance of decreasing the enemy armor and activate the second skill for free after using the ultimate, and then that will activate the passive skill, and then you can reactivate it 5 times in a row so you can quickly kill the enemy, and so it sounds really good. But I told you to keep in mind the Surging Thunder damage boost in mind for some reason, and is this one. The optimal strategy to use this character and maximize her damage as soon as you can or as soon as possible might be to find one way or another, depending on your possibilities and your team compositions. We're gonna get into that a little bit later, but it might be to try and make Nabe deal a surging target attack. Try to get Nabe to throw a basic attack at the enemy out of her turn, before of her normal turn, so you don't waste a turn of Nabe. That can be achieved by making her do an assist attack or a counter attack, for example, because she gains natural 20%. So you can do that. So she activates the damage boost and gets 30% more damage. Then, after the Surging Thunder, you throw the ultimate, the Mighty Thunder, and you will have all of that, uh, you know, 120% attack and 120% physical defense as damage, plus the 30% damage boost from the basic attack. Then you're gonna, you know, put the thunder mark on the enemy and activate the dark thunderbolt that is gonna activate the thunder backlash with 20% extra damage. That activates the passive skill, and then you can trigger the passive skill 5 different times with 5 more attacks. That will be the optimal way to destroy the enemy. And that will be if you try to do the max damage in the first turn. If you're willing to, wait a little bit more and maximize her damage as much as possible, the strategy will be a little bit different. It will start with a Surging Thunder before Nabe even gets her first turn. Yes, that will be the same. That will not change to try to activate the damage boost. But as soon as Nabe gets her turn, before the Mighty Thunder, activate the Dark Thunderbolt. You're gonna do a little bit of damage to the enemy. You're gonna purify any possible debuff that she might have. But the important part here is that she's gonna gain 40% physical defense. And that matters a lot because 40% physical defense on a character with Aeon defense is really nice. But the most important part here is that by the turn or by the time Nabe gets her second turn, this 120% of physical defense as damage to the enemy is gonna be way higher than usual because she will have 40% more physical defense during those turns thanks to the Dark Thunderbolt. And that, will also increase the damage of her passive skill, and that will increase the damage that you can trigger to 5 times with the last part of her passive skill. So in that way, you can maximize the damage of this character with only 2 turns. One to activate the Dark Thunderbolt, and the second turn to activate the ultimate skill. You know, uh, Supposing that you have a way to throw in the Surging Thunder before she even gets 1 turn. The possible counter to this strategy, it might be enemies with dispelling capabilities. So they dispel your buffs before you can even have a turn to play. But if you're facing enemies that do not have dispelling capabilities on your buffs, or you know that the enemy is not going to be able to dispel your buffs, then this is the optimal strategy to beat the enemies. Not only that, but uh, you can also maximize her damage with other characters on her team, but that is a little bit for later. Now, Uh, that will be for the skills and the strategy to optimize her alone without a team. With a team, we're gonna be a little bit later. For now, we're gonna go to the awakening level, and you're gonna be seeing that I only have 15 levels on her out of 30. Even when she is one of my strongest characters on the game or the account, I still do not max her because, I cannot complete all the levels of the Realm of Shadows as a free to play. But that's another different story. Uh, Here, what I will recommend you more on the Square Gems, that is going to be the first one and the one at level 20, is this one. The Energy Gem Defense, specifically the one that increases it on a percentage. Because all of the Nabe skills scale with her attack and her defense. So you can choose increase her defense here or increase her attack. You can also choose to put the Energy Gem attack. Both will make Nabe skill a lot. I think the Energy Gem attack will make Nabe's skill higher than the one with the defense, because she has A on defense, but she has S on attack. So attack will be a little bit better. But the reason why I'm using the one of defense here is because more things of Nabe scale with defense than with attack. Everything is scaled with attack, but also with defense. But the Dark Thunderbolt, the second skill, makes her defense go up by 40%, and that will make the 120% damage from her ultimate that is based on her attack, and the other 120% based on her physical defense is no longer gonna be, like equal. So now the defense is gonna be like a higher multiplier on the Nabe ultimate skill for the damage. That's why I'm using the defense one, because on the combo that I told you to maximize her damage, defense plays a little bit of a higher role there. Then, for the round gem, the one that you get at level 10 and the level 25 of the awakening levels, I will recommend this one that is called the Mighty Gem or the Mighty Gem Crit. Specifically, the one that increases the critical chance. When we get into the relic section, I will tell you why, but a little spoiler, try to get all the way to 75% critical chance. If you get to 75% critical chance without crit in the gems, you can go and use the Mighty Gem critical damage to maximize her potential. But if you struggle or you cannot get to the 75% critical chance, then put the Might Gem crit. And it's gonna be really, really good because it's gonna play into her arc light, and that is the next part. Now, for the rare gem, this one right here, I will recommend you one of three. Either the one that increases the physical damage, this one that is the attack, or the one that increases the physical defense, that is this one, or the one that gives you speed points. Honestly, all of the three are really nice. Both physical defense and attack are two different stats that are really good on this character. Not only because it makes the character more balanced as a warrior class one, but also because all of her skills scale with those two stats. And the speed gem will be really nice because she has B on speed, so she falls behind pretty quickly on the match against something like Seshi or Nigredo or Albedo, for example. So with speed, she might be able to keep it up a little bit better than usual. And then we get to the Awakening level 30 that gives you the class specialized gems. There, I will be mostly recommending you this one, the Power Gem Counter Rate. Yeah, it is true that at the start of the game it gives you just a little bit of counter rate, but if you can make that scale, you can get pretty nice counter rate. Like for example, let me show you here. On the class specialized one for the warriors, you can get all the way to 15% counter rate. That if you combine that 15% counter rate with the 20% counter rate from the accessories, that means that you gain a total of 35% counter rate on this character without any other thing like a counter team specialized or without getting counter rate in the relic department. Now, for the arc light of the character, you can see here that I have as my placed arc light on the character the battle for the head wife level 100, 6 stars is a maxed out arc light. But she has her own arc light, that is this one, the Cloud Piercing Shadow Bolt. Increases her attack and her health for flat amounts and also her attack on percentage. And has one exclusive effect for her Thunder Backlash, the damage from the passive skill, nullifies 25% of the target defense and converts 30% of that damage into Nabe health. And when the Thunder Backlash deals damage, critical chances increases by 25%. That is why it was important to get to 75% critical chance, because that 75% critical chance combined with the 25% from this arc light will make all the passive triggers be critical hits, and if all of them are critical hits, that means you can have a potential of one shot every time the ultimate or every time that the passive skill takes place. So you will have potential one shot of on a water class character instead of a mage class character or a ranger class character. And it's really, really nice. And the defense that gets nullified as well as the health that Nabe gains can be upgraded with the stars of the arc light. And it's really, really nice. It's one of the best arc lights that you can combine on this character. The reason I don't have this one equipped on the character yet is because I just recently got it. I usually was playing with Battle for the Headwife because I didn't have the exclusive arc light, and the Battle for the Headwife was very similar on performance because it gave me also attack and HP on flat amounts or play amounts, and then increases my attack on percentage. As you can see here, because it's 6 stars, it gives me 10% more attack, while the exclusive arc light at 1 star only gives me 5% attack, half of the bonus. And if I change the arc light right now of my character, you can see that my power level will go from 50k to something like 46 or 47%, sorry, 47k power, yeah. 47 power or k power is not that good compared to what I have here, so I'm gonna replace it for the headwife just for now. You can see my combat power level increasing again to 50k combat power, which is really really nice. And this gives you another effect, not an exclusive effect, but another that is really nice. The general effect here is that increases the counter rate by 50% and counter damage by 50% upon entering the battlefield for 2 rounds. The only bad part is that only lasts for 2 rounds, but the good part is that the increase on damage is basically massive. Here at 6 stars, you can see here is 50% more damage and more counter rate. If we combine that with the natural 20% that the character has, it means that she will have a total of 70% counter rate, because here is the natural 20. So on the first 2 rounds, Nabe has a 70% chance of countering all kinds of attacks that get thrown at her. And if she counters attacks, she will use a Surging Thunder, and that means that she's gonna gain the damage boost buff for 2 rounds. That means that immediately she's gonna have an extra 30% damage dealt. That means that by the time I get the first turn with her, I can choose if I go for the one-shot potential throwing the Mighty Thunder ultimate with the strategy that I told you, or I could go for the Dark Thunderbolt bonus so I can make a setup for the second round and the second turn use the Mighty Thunder and get an even higher potential of one shot and destroying from 1 to 2 enemies, because the Dark Thunderbolt can activate after the ultimate, and if the enemy died from the initial hit of the ultimate, that means the Dark Thunderbolt is gonna get activated on a second target, potentially killing 2 enemies in one single attack or one single round. So the reason why I keep the Battle for the Headwife for now is because the high counter rate allows me to activate the basic attack without wasting a turn, and by that reaching one-shot potential as a free-to-play really easy. But the exclusive arclight of the character is what I will recommend you the most. Use Battle for the Headwife only if you went here to the Astral Play and didn't got the arclight by, bad luck. There's always a chance of getting the arclight, but it is not highly, likely to get it. Like you can see here, I did a temple, didn't got it. So with that, if you don't get the exclusive arclight, that is a nice alternative. Now, for the next part, the relic section. It's really easy, this one. There's only like 2 or 3 possible options that are optimal for the character. Here you can see that I have the termination set activated on this character, but there are other 2 alternatives. One of those alternatives for the relic set might be, contrary to what the game tells you here, the Sunset and Execution. I will say there are more the Vermare set and the Sterling set. Let me show you here. The Sterling set is right here. Increases the physical defense from 10 to 15% and applies 7.5% of the physical defense to all of the allies on the team. So everyone will gain a defense boost thanks to this character, and she will gain 15% more health, more defense, physical defense. That is exactly what makes skill the passive skill, the ultimate, and even the basic attack. And it will be to try and maximize damage without losing any defense capabilities. The other option might be Vermare set, that is right here. Increase the critical chance from 10 to 15% and gains 40% chance to reduce one skill cooldown by 1 round after using the skill. So this will be merely for the utility and the critical chance, so you might have more ways, or you can use the ultimate and the Dark Thunderbolt more often than usual, because you might have a little bit of cooldown reduction here and there every time that you get a turn with the character and throw up an active skill, not the passive skill. But the one that I will say that is the 100% recommended and the most optimal one will be here the Termination set. The one that is equipped right here on the screen, that is the Sparkle Termination set, that gives me exactly 15% more critical chance and the exclusive effect that nullifies 30% of the target defense. If we combine this with her exclusive Arclight, means that her passive and all the triggers of her passive from the ultimate and the Dark Thunderbolt are gonna be able to nullify a total of 55% physical defense of the enemy with the Arclight at 1 star. If I get it to 6 star, it will be able to nullify all the way to 80% physical defense, which is a ton. But not only that, these defense nullifying capabilities will also transfer to the basic attacks or any other attack that Nabe might be able to pull off, like for example an assist attack. So this will be the recommended one, because not only gives you more critical chance that you might be able to make use when you combine it with the Arclight, that way you're going to be able to one-shot enemies with the passive triggers, but also the nullifying capabilities of the enemy's physical defense might allow you to melt tanks that are specialized on physical defense, like the Platinum Dragonlord armor or Hamuske or Tankalvedo, for example. So with this, you might have a character that is able to destroy even enemy tanks. Now, the next section will be the sub-attributes for the relics. Here you can see that I have a Thunderband as the headpiece instead of a Termination Mask. That is only because you need 3 set pieces to activate the exclusive effect, not 4, so I can change one if I have one with better stats. And the one that is here on screen is exactly what I will tell you is the best sub-attributes, or the best combination of 4 sub-attributes that you can get in the relics for this character. You can see double A, double S. The double A is for critical chance and critical damage. The double S is for health points and attack. You can see that I enjoy 8% critical chance, 13% critical damage, 9% more health, and 9.5% more attack. Remember that attack and health are the best basic attributes on this character, so with this, you're basically enjoying the boost or a buff on the best attributes that this character may have, and you're buffing her to her maximal potential. Now, the Termination armor is a little bit more mediocre, but still nice, because it gives me effect resistance. That way my character is not that easily stunned or silenced by enemy control effects, but I'm also gaining 5% more damage boost, 7.5% more physical defense, and 7.5% more attack. That makes skill, both the attack, the physical defense, and even the damage boost, makes all of Nave's skills scale higher than usual. Here, the Termination Blunderbuss, you can see that I have 5% more critical chance, 9% more critical damage, and double S, one for effect precision and one for attack. I'm getting 9.5% more attack and 20% more effect precision. You might be wondering why I have effect precision here, or if it was bad luck. And no, it's completely intentional, because the debuffs that Nabe puts, the one that decreases the enemy physical defense by 50% when she puts the ultimate on the enemy, and the debuff that is high tier damage taken down, or damage down on the enemy, that reduces the enemy 40% their total damage before they attack. That is the debuff that the passive skill puts. All of those 2 debuffs that you can put on the enemy are based on basic chance. They're not fixed chance, and they're because they're basic chance, it means that the enemy can resist being inflicted with those debuffs if they have enough effect resistance. Having a little bit of effect precision might help you to be able to successfully inflict the debuff on the enemy, so the enemy will not have a chance to resist, or will be less likely to resist the effect, and by extension the enemy will be dealing less damage than usual to you, specifically 40% less damage from all kinds and sources, and the enemy will have 50% less physical defense when Nabe throws the ultimate at them. So that's why I have effect precision here. And now the Termination base, you can see that I have another 11% more critical damage, 9% more physical defense, 9.5% more attack, and 10% critical damage resistance. Here, the only one that was bad luck is the critical damage resistance. The physical defense, attack, and critical damage are really nice, and I already told you why. If I were able to change the critical damage resistance here, I will change it for critical chance to try and get to the 75% critical chance. And this is exactly what I will recommend you to get. I would recommend you to get in equal measure, unlike other characters that I told you tier from priorities. Here will be like equal measure, try to get critical chance, critical damage, health points, and attack. As an extra, you might be able to get a little bit of effect precision or a little bit of speed or damage boost, but only those. Now moving to the next session, or the next section here will be the relic enhancements with the elixirs. One of the main ones, or the primary ones that you'll be able to prioritize, is the punch for punch enhancement. That is this one right here. As you can see here, from level 1 to level 5 increases your critical chance by a percentage. That is really useful, especially when you're going to use the passive skill and the arc light of the character. But also from level 6 to level 10 you gain damage boost. That is really nice, because damage boost increases all kinds of damage from your character to the enemies, from the magical damage to the physical damage from the passive and the ultimate skill. So punch for punch is exactly what I would recommend you to get. Then Endless Cycle will be another one of the ones that I recommend you, because from level 1 to level 5 gives you plenty amount of health, and if you get lucky, not like me, you will be able to get level 6 or level 10 that increases your health by plain amounts, yes, but also by percentage. That is really nice, because this character has double S, one on attack, one on health. That means that this character not only hits like a truck that hits really hard, but also resists the damage incredibly good. This character is not gonna be deleted by the enemy in one or two attacks. This character is very sturdy. It's gonna be really hard to kill. So if you can increase her health even more, that means that the enemy will have a really hard time killing her. And even if they kill her, she revives. So you still have another chance of playing this character and killing them with, her passive. Then let me show you here. Another one that I will tell you that is basically uh, a must have, a go-to, is Unstoppable Enhancement. From level 1 to level 5 increases your critical damage by a percentage. That is really nice, but from level 6 to level 10, if you're able to get them, you will also gain assist rate or assistance rate. That is the chance of Nabe attacking after one of her allies attacks the enemies, and she will use their basic attack with that. And that means that she's gonna be able to use the basic attack and gain the damage boost from that before she even gets a turn. And that will allow you to play the strategies that I told you to maximize her damage by turn 1 and 2. As you can see, I have a level 3, but recommended will be at least level 6. Then Bladed Round, another that you can get, and if you can get it at level 6 or more, get it. Increases your attack on plain amounts from level 1 to 5, but from level 6 to level 10. You will also gain attack in percentage. That is really nice, because this is the first or the second best attribute of the character, depending on how you're seeing it. Probably the best. But if you want even more enhancements, you have the opportunity to have that. I would recommend you Almighty Thunder, a special effect that if the enemy target has defense down, part of the skill damage is converted directly to health. Can go from 10 to 20 to 32 to 46, or all the way to 60%. And the damage might be increased by another 10%. This is really good if you can combine Nabe with something like Valkyrie Shelter or the Rohamuske. That way your Nabe is gonna heal when she attacks. And she already does that with her Arc Light. So if you combine her exclusive Arc Light with this enhancement attribute, that's literally an extra layer of healing that you're gonna get, because she might be able to heal 30% of the damage that she does with the passive through her Arc Light, plus another percentage of healing that she's gonna be obtaining with this enhancement. So if you can get it, do it. That way you're gonna increase the survival chances of your character by a lot. And there's two more that I'm gonna recommend you. Well, more. In fact, it's gonna be three. The first one is Thunder Surge. If the enemy has shock, the target takes increased critical damage. This Nabe doesn't put any kind of shock debuff on the enemies, so it is kind of situational. This will be to maximize her one-shot potential. So that means that you're gonna have to play Nabe with one ally that is able to put shock on the enemy in a very consistent way. So she's gonna be able to go in after the ally puts shock on them and deal extra critical damage. But that is situational, and you're not gonna be able to pull it off all the time. One that you must have is the Fortitude damage. From level 1 to 5 increases your physical defense by plain amounts and little amounts, but from level 6 to level 10 increases your physical defense not only in plain amounts but also in a percentage from 8% all the way to 20%. If you can get it to the 20%, it's very, very unreal for any free to play, but if you can get it, it will be really, really good. And I can give you a little example here. I am a free to play character, or a free to play account, and I'm not a character, at least not yet. But I was able to get something like that. For example, here you can see I have my tank Cocytus with level 10 42 damage. That means that he is gaining 600 physical points of defense plus 20% more physical defense to all of his stats, which is really, really good for something like a tank that he is, in fact. So if you can get that on her, it will be really great. And then, as the last enhancement, is going to be this one, this stranded one. Targets inflicted with control effects will receive more percentage of skill damage. Can go from 6 to 12 to 20 to 30%, all the way to 40%, with the chance of having one random skill cooldown reduced by one round. A little bit like a Bermari effect, a Bermari set effect. So this will be really nice because if you combine not all of those buffs but or enhancements, but at least some of them, like the one that increases the defense, with the one that increases the attack, with the one that increases the critical chances or the critical damage, and then the stranded, and you combine this Nabe with a control type character, you're gonna be able to destroy them. You might be able to one-shot all the mages in the game, even the mages that are able to revive or resurrect, like the SSR solution. And in case you're wondering what is a control type character, it's something like this one right here, like the Raven Black Guardian Albedo. A control means enemies that are either under taunt effects, like what Albedo does, or enemies that are silenced, like for example what Nigredo does with her ultimate, or enemies that are stunned, like for example what this Hamuske does with the second skill, or what this Seshi does with the ultimate skill, or what Victim can do with his ultimate skill. And that also includes characters that are able to freeze enemy characters, like for example what this Lizardman is able to do with the Icy Burst ultimate effect, that is able to freeze the enemies in place so they are unable to throw any special skill or any special defense skill on themselves or their allies when their turn comes in, so they lose the entire turn. So that includes characters that either freeze, silence, stun, or taunt the enemies. When they're under that specific control effect, this stranded enhancement is gonna make your Nabe deal extra damage to them. And with that, I already covered the skill effects, the accessory, the relic enhancement, the relic sub-attributes, the relic sets, my recommendations regarding all the relics, the awakening levels, and the arc lights. As you can see here, I have her at 6 stars. And we go to the startup enhancement here, right? We can see that the 4-star upgrade is that before she uses the Mighty Thunder with the ultimate, she will be immune to the debuffs. The 5-star upgrade will be that when she dies, she revives and gains not only an extra turn to play, but the ultimate resets the cooldown. And the 6-star upgrade is that when she uses the ultimate, she will immediately trigger the Dark Thunderbolt, the second skill. Why I'm talking about this topic? Well, because if you're thinking if this character is worth to have at 4, 5, or 6 stars, I will tell you that all the versions of this character, both the 4-star version, the 5-star version, and the 6-star version, are all of them really good. there is no upgrade on the stars of this character that is bad or that might be overlooked. The three upgrades here are really nice, are 10 out of 10 basically, or 9 out of 10 in the case of the 5-star upgrade here, because you ideally will not have this character getting killed that easily. But this is one of the few characters that I can tell you is a very high tier on my side. If I were to make a tier list or something like that, this might be between at least something around the top 6 to the top 10 characters, because I have favoritism for other characters. But she is one of the top tier characters, no matter what game mode you're playing. And the stars are incredibly good. Get all the upgrades on the stars that you can. And I should have said this at the start of the video, but I forgot. If you're thinking if this character is worth, yeah, it is absolutely worth. Try to get this character, and if you already got it, upgrade it as much as you can. And with that, I have already covered everything about the basics of this character, so that means that the first part, or at least what is the theoretical part of the guide about the Raven Black Phantom of Allure, is already finished. And the next part is going to be about all the themes and compositions that you can play either with this character as an added or as a plus on the team, or completely around these characters, or this character might be your MVP on the games in both against NPCs and real players in both games. The ones that leave their teams to defend themselves, and the ones that play on real time against you on the tournament mode. So yeah, the next part is gonna be themes and compositions. I'm gonna be theoretically, I'm gonna be theory crafting about the best compositions and telling you why they work and why they are the best and the ones that I will recommend you. Normally, I put that same section in this video, in this guide, but the reason I'm not doing it today is because this character can be combined with a ton of others. Like, it's really, really flexible on the compositions you can put her in. And not only that, but because I only have like 2 gigabytes of storage to record this, and I'm pretty sure I already ran out of like 1.5, considering how long this video might be at this point. So yeah. Today I'm gonna be putting this, and then I'm gonna be putting like some event videos for the boss fights that I have to do, and in less than 24 ideally in less than 24 hours you might be able to get the second part where I theory craft the best themes and compositions. And after that one, I'm gonna do the practical guide where I go to the arena mode and different bosses and show you how this character performs on the themes that I told you. So you not only see what I tell you through the stats and the synergies of the skills, but you're also gonna be able to see it through the results of the battlefield. So now to have clarified that, it is over. It's already and I'm finished. So thanks for watching and hearing my full voice, and on to the next time and all of that. So yeah, I'll wait for the next part.